if you are on the go and you must stop at a Panda Express. Here are your top 3 item combinations and your worst 3 item combinations for your health and fitness goals. Yo guys, it's Mackenzie from SciFit, and today we are talking about eating fit on the fly. If you are on the go and you must stop at a Panda Express, here are your top 3 item combinations and your worst 3 item combinations for your health and fitness goals. As always, we will start with rock bottom and work our way up from there. Rock bottom option number 1 is the honey sesame chicken plus the cream cheese rangoon. This meal has 680 calories with 30 grams of fat, 9 grams being saturated, barely half a gram of sodium, 64 grams of carbs with 20 grams of sugars and 4 grams of fiber, and only 21 grams of protein. This option is the exact opposite idea of eating fit on the fly, boasting an almost 1 to 3 gram ratio of protein to carbs. It also has an almost third of its total carbs coming from sugar.
Okay, that's too much.
That's too much carbs.
To make matters worse, this option has almost half its total calories coming from fat, and nearly a third of those calories are coming from saturated fat. Over 85% of the calories in this option come from carbs and fats. High sugar? Check. High fat? Check. Fried? Check. This option is a triple check down for options to avoid. Rock bottom option number 2 is the sweet fire chicken breast with the chicken pot stickers. This meal option has 600 calories with 26 grams of fat, 5.5 grams being saturated fat, just over half a gram of sodium, 70 grams of carbs with 29 grams of sugar, and 2 grams of fiber with 20 grams of protein. This meal option also boasts an over 1 to 3 gram ratio of protein to carbs. Over 40% of the carbs in this option are also sugar. Higher calories than option 1, however, it does have about half of the saturated fat. Eating a meal like this will require that you eat a reciprocally balanced meal later. Luckily, you should be able to do that relatively easily, as this is a lower calorie option. Rock bottom option number 3 is a potato chicken plus a side of fried rice. This meal has 710 calories with 25 grams of fat, 5 grams being saturated fat, about 1.5 grams of sodium, 103 grams of carbs with 5 grams of sugar, and 3 grams of fiber with only 19 grams of protein. If you are trying to lose fat, this is an absolute day ruined. This meal option is just like the previous 2 in the sense that it also boasts an absolutely stonking protein to carb ratio that exceeds a 1 to 5 gram ratio respectively. Although this option has the lowest fat content of any of the options we have discussed today, this option still has almost a third of its calories coming from fat. Choosing to eat options like these are going to take you in the exact opposite direction of your health and fitness goals. Not even one of these options has less than 80% of their total calories coming from fat and carbs. They also have an absolutely laughable amount of protein. Having said that, they are lower in calories, and even smaller individuals could offset easily with a reciprocally balanced meal later. Now that we have talked about the worst options available, let's talk about the best 3 item combinations possible. Fast and fit option number 1 is the grilled teriyaki chicken plus 2 side orders of super greens. This meal has 480 calories with only 18 grams of fat, 4 grams being saturated fat, slightly more than 1 gram of sodium, 28 grams of carbs with 16 grams of sugar, and 10 grams of fiber with 48 grams of protein. This is by far and away the fittest meal you can have at Panda Express.
Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
It has a 2 to 1 gram ratio of protein to fat. In fact, it is very close to being a 3 to 1 gram ratio. The fat content is also considerably lower than any of the rock bottom options. There is 16 grams of sugar, but there is also a considerable amount of fiber. In all honesty, you could eat 2 of these and still be in balance. This is an easy phone it in win for eating on the go. Fast and fit option number 2 is the broccoli beef with black pepper Angus steak and a side order of super greens. This meal has 420 calories with 16.5 grams of fat, 3.5 grams being saturated fat, about 1.5 grams of sodium, 33 grams of carbs with 17 grams of sugar, and 8 grams of fiber with 34 grams of protein. This meal also boasts a 2 to 1 gram ratio of protein to fat. However, there is significantly less protein, and because of this lack of protein, the majority of the calories in this option come from fat, even though there is less actual fat than in option 1. Overall, this meal is a totally viable option that can be reasonably offset due to its low calories, low fat content, and the amount of protein it packs. Fast and fit option number 3 is the grilled Asian chicken with steamed ginger fish and a side order of super greens. This meal has 590 calories, 27.5 grams of fat, 6.5 grams being saturated fat, nearly 3 grams of sodium, 26 grams of carbs with 18 sugars, and 5 grams of fiber with 57 grams of protein. While this meal also boasts a 2 to 1 gram ratio of protein to fat, it also has the highest amount of calories coming from fat. However, the actual amount of fat could be reasonably offset with a reciprocal meal later in the day. This meal does have the lowest carb total of any of the fast fit options, but it also has the highest amount of sugar with the least amount of fiber. These options are the best because they all have positive protein ratios that exceed 2 grams of protein to 1 gram of fat. 2 out of 3 of these options also have a significant amount of fiber, with 1 being about 1/3 of the fiber you need in a day. Their calorie contents are also very low, meaning that all of them could be offset reasonably easy. In fact, you could eat option number 1 2 or 3 times a day, and depending on your goals, remain in balance. Remember, when we are eating on the go, it's about 2 things: prioritizing protein and avoiding the big 3: sugar, saturated fat, and anything fried. Now you know how to eat fit on the fly.